easily the most valuable video you will ever watch on people-pleasing behavior. So I recently did a video that got a lot of attention around being a people-pleaser, and I had a friend in my inbox telling me that I shouldn't have told people to get rid of the people-pleasing part. I should have told them to love that people-pleasing part of themselves. It's true, but it's incomplete. You got to realize that this is not about what's right and wrong. It's more about what works and what doesn't. Okay? So the reality is, in some cases, you need to be a people pleaser. Sometimes you need to avoid confrontation. Sometimes you need to avoid conflict. Sometimes you need to avoid the consequence. But sometimes you need to get through. Sometimes you need to be assertive. Sometimes you need to stand up for yourself. So it's less about getting rid of yourself, because how can you love yourself and want to get rid of half of yourself? Okay? You can't get rid of your people-pleasing part. It's more about learning to love it, but learning to activate a different part of yourself that you might not be used to activating in your life. Which part of yourself is that? So here's what's really interesting now. Let me explain. We as human beings have something called a self. Okay? And we can think more of ourselves and go into pride and be cocky and be a douchebag by looking down at others. And we can also think less of ourselves and go into shame and be a doormat looking up at others. So be cocky and looking down at others in pride, or being shameful and looking up at others and be a doormat. Okay? So the reality is that these people pleasers down here who are doormats, they think that if they were a little bit assertive, then they're all of a sudden just going to turn into these aggressive, cocky, rude people. And these people, they think that if they were to be a little bit more nice, they'd be absolute doormats and, would be absolutely taken advantage of. Both sides forget that there is a middle, where you're not being a douchebag and looking down at others and needing to say something or be assertive in an aggressive way. And it's also not letting the other person have their way, and it's also having the opportunity to be assertive. And what does that look like? That looks like, hey, I love you, but I really didn't appreciate the way that you say that. And if you're going to continue to talk that way, I can't be here. I love you, but I'm going to set my boundary here. And you can feel that energy. It's not coming from douchebag putting them down and being aggressive, which could trigger their ego. And it's not also coming from shame where you're letting them have their way. It's coming from the middle. Because here's what's interesting. If you come from pride and be rude and aggressive, you will have a little part of yourself that goes, that was aggressive. You need to calm down. If you let them have their way and you're a doormat, you'll have a little part of yourself that goes, you could have stood up to them. But if you come from your heart and you speak from your heart, where you're saying, hey, I don't appreciate that, and I'm not going to tolerate this anymore, from your heart, then there's no noise. Because you're being centered and you're being authentic. And that is the part that you need to activate when overcoming your people-pleasing behavior. Hope that was valuable.